Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Good Morning FC. You're welcome to the show. Today, I'll just be stepping in very briefly. The analyst will be joining us shortly. As is our usual practice, we'll be starting with the news and then after. So let me just run you through some of the headlines that we have. The first one is school people are not able to do what they're supposed to do, even if they know. Oh, Mrs. Adewusi is here. Good morning, Ma. You're welcome. You're
Good
muted.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Morning Education Show. It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to be
here. Okay, so our first headline is saying that schools and students have relaxed their use of face masks. Is that a surprise?
Not a surprise at all. Not a surprise at all. I mean, what do we expect? Even when we go out, that's why I tell people that when I go out, if the event is going to last more than 2 hours, then it becomes a safety risk to me, because I know that at the end of
so when there is no system.
Yeah, safety, your line was breaking, or maybe it's mine.
I didn't get the ending part of your comment.
I was saying that your line was breaking, so we didn't hear what you said.
At the end of 2 hours, that was okay. Because there is no, because the truth is, if you're asking people to do something that they're not used to doing, you've got to find a way to
safety check.
To make it natural, you've got to find a way to make it a part of life.
Ugochi, your line is clear.
So that it just follows that natural sequence. It's just like almost every time people get up in the morning to have their time. Okay, let me step out and come back in. Let's see to make it.
You want to turn off your video? Wow, I think her network is not cooperating this morning. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Ugochi was taking that headline that was talking about people not using their mask.
Yes. Could you could I?
Oh, Rotimi.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think Rotimi is here.
Hello, Titi, how are you? Hello, Titi.
I'm fine. Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Hello, Titi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay. Yeah, I think the network is an issue this morning. Okay, Well, to Rotimi comes and joins us again. Okay.
Hello,
So,
Titi. Good morning. How are you?
good morning. I can hear you now loud and clear. Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm joining you from the city of Abuja this morning.
Oh, welcome. How's
Yeah,
Abuja?
there's a Harmattan in Abuja. It's kind of chilly.
Really?
Yeah.
Anyway, we lost safety chief went because she has a bit of network issues. I'm hoping that she'll be able to join us. But we're just taking the headlines, and the headlines, the first headline was regards children and teachers of schools not fully adhering to use of mask, and we were like, this is not a surprise. So I was telling safety chick that if I go for an event that I know it's going to be more than 2 hours, I know that event, my attending that event is already a safety hazard to me, because towards the end of 2 hours, especially if there are people that are friends, families, and friends, it moves from a face mask to a skin mask. Then we start taking pictures, and then mask becomes a hand mask. So, how much more for kids that are going to school and having to spend 6 to 8 hours? It's a tough call. It's really a tough call. I think it's important that to remember that there are three ways that three different measures. So it's to keep on doing a balancing act, whereby keep getting them to wash their hands, ensure they are maintaining social distance. It might not be as easy to do face mask for 6 hours. And even when people put on the face mask for 6 hours, I was saying yesterday that people are touching the mask constantly, because they're touching the mask. All that thing that you're trying to is defeated. So that's why washing of hands is very important. The social distancing is very important. So as people put down their masks, we know that other measures are in place to kind of do the list. I think the second interesting headline, just going through the headlines now, is the one of teachers as the University of Ibadan loses longest serving lecturer at 71.
Yeah.
Nigel Henry at 71, one of the longest serving University of Ibadan. Wow, that would have been a sad.
Yeah, I saw
4 decades. Wow.
I saw the headline as well. And I think it's a sad one that the university is losing that lecturer. But then it's just to make us realize that we need to understand that there's a cycle. We need to, as people transition out of retirement, out of death, we also need to understand that there must be a cycle. You must plan transitioning. You must plan the fact that every entity, especially the tertiary institution, must evolve. So the planning to get people into the system, to be equipped enough, to be empowered enough, and to have the right kind of experience and expertise, it's also something that must be as important as pushing for salaries, as important as getting facilities in place. It's also as important as getting student intake. As long as there's no war in any country, one thing that is sure is the routine cycle of education. It's only unrest, war, or pandemic that can really stop that cycle. That's what I think. I don't know what Rhoda thinks. Rhoda, good morning, and
Morning.
have a mask on. Good morning.
Yes, you are on a
Yeah.
mission.
You understand?
Totally. So I'm not sure if I was following the conversation very closely, but I think you're responding. You're reviewing the news of the late longest serving lecturer, I think, in the University of Ibadan, right? Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think I just missed out on some of your reviews of that news.
As we talked about this, there's also that back and forth that is coming up as people are pushing back on extension of how long teachers can be in service. So maybe use this topic to lead into to lead into that one, because the official age for retirement for teachers is now 65, and I think years of service has been extended from 30 to 35. So which part of the fence? It would be good to know what part of the fence do we stand on? Are we for? Are we against? I understand the basis was just try and still keep good hands in, because we have a shortage.
Talking about succession planning, why it has
a safety check.
I
Rhoda,
think
what are your okay?
I think we lost Ugochi. So for me, there are various. I mean, if you know Sue Lloyd, I think she is. I'm not sure if I get her name correctly, but she is one of the co-writers or authors of Jolly Phonics.
Okay.
And Sue was well into her 60s when Jolly Phonics became quite famous. And I don't have my stats correctly, but Sue, at the time when we had all the videos many years ago, with on Jolly Phonics, Sue was already likely 60s, early 70s. And that's a co-educator with so many experience. One thing that characterizes the space with education very well is experience and length of service. With that comes a lot of the feedback cycle that helps you to not only realign yourself, to unlearn certain things, relearn, go through the different innovation periods and the cycles of development that comes through. And if you're really a good teacher, a good teacher is a serial learner. And so anyone who's in the space of educating others to learn is someone who also we should know that person has the science of learning, the spirit of learning together, all entwined. So such a person should not be caught or asked with an age requirement or a length of service requirement that takes them out of service when they are active, when they can actively give back. So do I agree with the policy? Yes, I do. Is it a blanket policy? Maybe there's certain things we need to look inside of it, because when there are health challenges, when there's a regular appraisal system, that weeds out the bad from the good, then we should be fine. Because I know, gosh, I have friends that are 65. I have personal friends that are 65, and they're very strong, still doing amazing work in the world of education around the world and in their countries. So I don't think that there's anything. I personally do like that particular policy. I like it very much. I think that a lot of people have been thrown out of the system. They're very good for the system just because they finished their 30 years or that they are at a certain age. So I'm hoping, I like it but I'm hoping that it's not one of those blanket things, that with it comes an appraisal, a healthy, strong appraisal system that ensures that we keep the best in our schools.
Thank you very much, Rhoda. I don't know, Safety Chick, if you're back.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, maybe I'll just try and run through some of the thoughts that I had. I'll just start with the face mask thing. And I was saying earlier that anytime that there is a system to ask people to begin to do something new that they were not doing before, there has to be a way for it to be monitored. There has to be a way to encourage compliance. And one of the ways to encourage compliance is to try and make it as seamless as possible for that habit to be entrenched. So, for example, I've been encouraging parents that for you to even get the children to wear the mask in the first place, first things first, they need to know they should be wearing it. So if you are able to loop certain habits together, for example, every time a child wants to go to school, they'll pick up their school bag and put it on. So associate the action of putting on your school bag with putting on your face mask so that they get used to doing that. Now, for compliance within the school system, there has to be like monitors, and it has to be a combination of both the teachers and the students, so that everybody knows that, oh, when you see this person's job is to ensure that you are all putting on your mask. That enforcement has to be there, and there has to be penalty and reward, because if people know that nothing is going to happen anyway, they are bound to do anyhow. And if they know that there is nobody monitoring, they will also do anyhow. So it's really important that there are systems. And again, if as a school leader you are encouraging your teachers to wear their masks, then you also need to be seen wearing yours. As a teacher, if you're asking your students to be wearing their masks, you also need to be seen wearing yours. So you have to also lead by example, model good behavior. So all these factors must come together in ensuring that people are putting on their masks. And then, of course, accompany it with other methods, washing your hands, social distancing, and all that. Then to the topic on schools and succession planning. Yes, I'll call it succession planning. What is happening is we're now in a time where some people are going to be going out of the system, either through natural causes, death, illness, or for any other reason. It's important that we have people who are going to fill in those roles. And it doesn't happen when we are in an emergency, oh, somebody has died, or somebody has gone, then there is no one to fill the space. It's supposed to be a very structured plan from the beginning. And if nobody has been doing it, or you see that your organization, your school has not really made plans for that, now is a good time to start. It's never late. Start today. Ask yourself, what is going to happen in the next how many years with the kinds of people that we have currently? Who can we begin to groom for leadership positions? Or is it possible that we're willing to accept and employ other people from outside to step into our institution and take on those roles? So these are the questions that leadership needs to start answering and making plans. It's not a situation where maybe suddenly someone takes ill or people die and then everybody is scrambling. Who fills up the space? Who fills up the space? If there is appropriate succession planning, that's not the time to run up and down. That's actually the time to consolidate on the plans we have already put in place. So I just thought to share.
Okay.
I think mask wearing. I think Titi, you and I have had this conversation in the past when we saw an article, written by this educator in somewhere. I can't remember if it was the US. It's very unnatural. And it's very unlikely for kids to keep to it and stick to it for the whole duration of when they're in school. I think that what maybe a lot of us within the education space have not done a great job at is looking for moments when we can unmask in school. So that it's there's a breather in between the periods. I mean, just being very radical about the way we design the timetable to ensure that there is a moment to unmask. It just becomes a natural thing for you to just pull it out.
Actually, something called mask break. Yes, there's actually something called mask break, and we're actually advising schools at the very beginning that as much as we are saying people should wear their mask, but there are times that you need to bring the children outdoor, because when children are outdoor, we have that free flow of ventilation, and that's actually what you really need, so that aerosols are dispersed as much as possible. So that's actually supposed to be mask break. Now the thing is, because we have said play, people should not, children should not engage in outdoor play. It now looks like, oh, they shouldn't even do anything outside. But like you rightfully mentioned, that mask break should actually be incorporated as part of the plan. Otherwise, the other option would be reducing the amount of time that they have to spend in that environment wearing all those things. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. So mask break is actually supposed to be imputed into any school's arrangement now. And it can be phased, so that not everybody is outside at the same time. Give a part, just when we have short break, long break, fix a time. Okay, this class will go out, take off, spread out, maybe do a few little stretches, just give them that time to have them before they have to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. The reality is, even if you do have 50% of your class population going through a hybrid version of learning, and that's for schools that are capable. The schools within the space that I work don't have that choice. But it's really in the world of getting those mask breaks, being innovative about how we're going to restructure the school, the classroom, or the timetable to have children to go out. It's very unnatural, really, for people to wear masks throughout the time in school. Not beyond being natural, it's just, I think, also unhealthy.
Yeah, because if you wear a mask for like an hour and you're talking, it becomes uncomfortable, wet and uncomfortable. So I completely understand. Rotimi, back to you. I think that's all we can take for the news. I think we should jump in, wade into these deep waters. And I'm so happy that we have two experts when it comes to teacher development to talk about it. I don't know who should start, but Rotimi, let me hand over your baton back to you.
No, I'm just your supporting striker today. I'm in between transition of location. So Rhoda is the perfect person that should start talking about teacher development, what it is, why it's essential, how to get about it, how to crack it. Rhoda is in the forefront of the dynamics and the theatrics of it. So
yeah,
Rhoda,
and Rhoda, what I would like is really talk about it more from the bulk of teachers, rather than, there's the private schools that have it all together. No, I don't, that's not where I would like to the general populace, where we know that teacher development is an issue. What would you have to say about that?
I think even the word development just takes us to the space of that we definitely always have to think through. We have to continue to think through when what are the needs that our teachers, why are we even doing teacher development? There are a couple of reasons why we do it. We do it because we want to close gaps. Maybe there's either we want to close gaps, there is an innovation that has happened in the space, and e.g. the pandemic. There is a need to a system-wise change, again, which is in the world of innovation. Or that's basically we just want to cover. There's a national change. Either maybe, for example, a state is introducing a new program. Just like the Lagos State introduced the intervention eco itself, and then teacher development had to happen because this is now in the world of digitizing the teaching experience, and of course equipping teachers with digital skills. So all of the teacher development really from the space of teachers is one that sometimes I look at it this way, and I like, do we do enough of it? Because there is a professional, there's the training part of it, that is the learning new skills, and there's a professional development part of it that you are dealing with changes and things that you have seen, gaps that you have seen that you want to fix. And so those two big parts of teacher development is the reason why it becomes it's supposed to be something that happens, but that happens all the time. But there is a required model that that we often try to have schools think about every time. There's one model that I can't remember the name of the I just can't remember, but that model, what basically we're discussing is like teacher development, towards teachers learning, and instead of us being that particular model is always looking at it like in the world of learning and world of change. And so this model usually asks specific questions. So this model will say, for example, is there a sense of necessity for this? And is there a willingness, or readiness to experience, change? Just a couple of things. And if whatever you're going to do is going to lead to change. I always look at teacher development as, equipping the base, just equipping the base towards learning outcomes. At the end of it all, is why are we developing teachers? The reason why we're doing that is because we want to achieve some learning outcomes. So that being our North Star is the reason why teacher development is key. But then it requires funding. It requires a healthy dose of funding, and it requires policy that does not change, policy that outlives the person who created it. I'm still looking for a nice way to communicate this particular policy that outlives the personnel who creates it. Because that's what I've seen is often the issue within systems, states or schools, private sector, public sector, is that when there's a policy around teacher development and somebody it's not stronger than the human, the personnel in there, if not, it becomes a problem, and so it is not sustainable. So that's my goal, that the policy is strong, the institution is solid, the need for change is there, and the willingness, to carry through, but with the North Star as learning outcomes.
Mike is on mute. I like the angle that you started with, and that it's when it comes to teacher development, there are two things. There's one to bridge the gap, and then there's the other one to accommodate for the constant change. It's important that those two are done. So when I listen to you, what was coming to my mind is how there's that constant performance appraisal that needs to be done to identify the gaps. Because when you have a performance appraisal that helps identify the gap, then you can plan the training or development that takes care of bridging the gap. So I always tell people that when we do appraisal, beyond thinking about it for money, is really to identify the gaps. Because your appraisal should always be what are the person's strengths and what are areas for development. That you then say, okay, you know what? I noticed that my teachers this year need to up their game on ICT. So I'm going to do a number of ICT trainings. So I like that, Then the other part is accommodate for what's happening, what's new. So even before COVID, there were all the trends, there was the flip learning, this, that, always accommodating for that. I honestly like the fact that it must be a policy. So when I go back to say, I just don't talk about private school, but it must be a policy that, irrespective, people come and that's what they need. They need the fact that in our school, there is a training plan that must happen. So whether the policy is that 4 trainings must happen, every term, or 4 trainings must happen in a year, it's written in gold. And that policy is tied to someone who must be responsible for his performance, so that it's a KPI for the person. Because it's really important. And like you said, I also like the fact that you said that all training has financial implication. The financial sometimes is not money. Because if you take people out from their normal duties, then there's that opportunity cost for the fact that instead of them earning, they're learning. So it's money, That's what I said. It's not. So even if I come and say, Rotimi, come and train my teacher for free, there's that opportunity cost of bringing him in, of taking teachers out of their time. Say, okay, maybe it's a Saturday, paying for refreshment. There must be that cost. But I think it's something that each schools need to be creative, and that will lead me to my next question. So, because there's a funding aspect of it, a recommendation in terms of creative ways that schools, institutions can implement teacher development. I think that's my question. What are those creative ways that we can do so that it's not always a very heavy financial budget? So let's say, for instance, the school can say that, okay, we have a budget where we must bring in Rotimi, one person paid, but the 3 or 4 other trainings, they are creative ways. So what are some of the creative ways you recommend that schools and institutions can do teacher development so that it's not a big financial burden?
Okay, so there are 2 sectors that I would look at. There's private and public, but I'll try to bring it together so that it's not too long. One of my first creative solution is to hire well. Because when you hire, when your hiring is strong, when you have staff that you are intentional about the kind of quality that you're going to bring in, what happens then is that those people become your learning hub, your professional learning community. Let me call it your professional learning hub within your school and within your institution. Now, what those people can do is that in the space of, let's say, an innovation or change, those guys become the agents of that change. Then what happens is that they get the training you minimize cost on them. You're already paying them salaries, so it's part of their JD, right? And then they scale the training, so you reduce costs from that point of view, because they become just like, so as against training 20 staff, they're training 2 who will train the others. That's a creative way, but that is in the world of you hiring well. And don't forget that whenever you hire well, you got to pay well, because you have to think again, what is the long run cost of hiring somebody who will pay, say, $500,000 monthly, and somebody who will pay 70K monthly? Because again, you're thinking that 70K, oh, I've saved money, but you're not going to save money down the road, because you're going to need the services of a lot more people who ask you for 1.5 million naira every time they make their rounds. So that's, for me, it starts with making sure that you hire well. When you hire well, then you find out that you're capable of reducing. It's one creative solution. The second, I think for me, second creative solution is, and this is like when you work with big, institutions, states, federal, and all of that, is to create a sustainability plan. See, the thing about professional or teacher development and professional development that I think governments, who do it, have not always put in their plan is that sustainability. What do I mean by that? So you have your consultants, your technical partners, they come in. They do within the institution who is just studying. No one is understudying the plan, the training, the teacher development that's going on. No one is gaining skills, or there's no skills acquisition plan, or even in progress. Like often I used to say that when you when you train, you want to a good, let me put it this way, a good consultant should create a sustainability plan for you as a state. And what that good consultant should do is to ensure that they not only they have this cycle of making sure that they come back to the school. They always come back to the school. Sorry, am I still on? I'm not sure if anyone can hear me. Oh,
yes,
okay. Okay, great. So that I was talking about sustainability plan, and a good consultant would do that for you. And so what that means is that one could be 2 things. One, in every teacher development program that is designed for you, that there is a follow feedback cycle that is created in that development plan, that teacher development plan. That there is a plan to keep coming back to monitor progress of skills acquisition. That is, and then so that they can come back and do either a professional development or short courses or some kind of monitoring that is, or coaching and mentoring, that is going to help the system to sustain. That's one side of it. The other side of it is building a cohort of people who are understudying the program to ensure that they can also replicate the same thing. They may not hire what you may have not hired them so excellently well, paying them very well, doing all those kinds of things. But then there's this group of people, or there's this plan with your consultants to ensure that everybody is carried along and that skill spreads across the system. And so usually we want to look at what I'm trying to say in summary is that teacher development should always be looked as a reforms or a systems reforms wide initiative. So that it's not something that is a one-off, it's more of something that is sustainable.
Thank you very much. I like where you started from, which is the fact that if you hire well, then it can allow you gain some savings that you didn't realize instead of trying to save from the beginning, because that train the trainer concept is really one of the effective ways of doing your teacher development. When you have a group of people that you train, so instead of sending 20 people, 3, 4, 5, they come back and they train. So I like that. Let's hear from our educational consultant all the way from Abuja, as he talks to us about creative ways for teacher development. Rotimi, are you on mute? We can't hear you. Is it just me?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so just to add to all that's been said, we need to realize that teacher development actually is, it's not just the responsibility of the employer. It's also the responsibility of the teacher himself. And development has to do with two dimensions. That's talking about the personal development and the professional development, right? The personal development, in most cases, where structures are not totally in place, where even where you have that the industry is not totally evolved, it seems like personal development seems to rescue the gap and the lack in the place of professional development. And so when people recognize that even the skill gap that we see today and the depth of having development in itself, you realize that it's because a lot of people have left the second side of the dimension. You find that most people who work well on the personal development, they tend to be able to carry the burden a bit better than those who just wait for the professional development, and which is why sometimes the motivation to do based on the climate of work, based on the communication, based on the association you keep, tend to how do I put it, interfere with the entire scope. So I would say that when it comes to teacher development, it's not one audience focus. The teachers are not a victim waiting for a victor or waiting for a savior to come and rescue. The teachers are role players, they are stakeholders. And the truth about development is that there's a lot that we can all do, because when we start treating development, we start talking about finding their path, talking about making sure that they're able to get groomed, talking about transitioning along the career path, because development is broad and is a spectrum, So teachers need to recognize that, and I think that as much as we are familiar with the classroom side of it, we also need to get other aspects of teacher development and all the aspects of the value chain of teaching, as it were. So that way people begin to understand that. And like we always say on the show, with data, with numbers, it tends to get you excited. By the time you look at it, you look at the need for maybe the teacher deficit in hundreds of thousands. You look at the teacher cycle and transition. It gets you excited that even if you are not in the classroom and you want to go into the value chain of probably mentoring or training or coaching, it gives you that understanding that, look, there's a lot more ahead. So we need to develop ourselves, develop ourselves for our trade and profession, develop ourselves for the industry and the direction the world is headed, especially if we want to leverage on the fact that there's a lot of globalization taking place also in the place of education.
Okay, we use this opportunity to welcome my wonderful cousin who does, drops in. KK, good morning. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to this topic where we're talking about.
I'm excellent. It's so difficult getting on the show network.
Are you serious? We are that hot cake now that it's so hard to get on. Rotimi,
I think KK's fashion is drawing bandwidth.
It's still breaking up very badly. I can barely hear.
KK, your fashion is drawing bandwidth.
Okay.
My fashion is drawing bandwidth.
I'm going to ask this question. And then when I look at some other countries, right, in terms of teacher development, the kind of system that they have, and let's try and see how this can be implemented here. So if you have some countries whereby they actually give teachers a license, so the teachers have a license to use that is renewable, and under that license is stated the amount of PD, personal development, that you must have done in the year. So what happens is that towards the end of the year, whether it's the academic year, you then have to go onto the system and kind of, put it how you got acquired your hours for the year. So what typically happens that towards the end of the year, there's then a rush to do a number of courses for people to be able to meet their PD quota. Bringing it back home, and that's the point, because sometimes I think it's the same as Safety Chick was saying earlier. When you create a policy, when you create a system, if there's no system of monitoring, if there's no some reinforcement or enforcement, what you find out is that it just doesn't get done. So I would like everyone to comment on that, but we'll start with KK. KK, we can hear you loud and clear, so just go ahead.
Oh, okay. So you were talking about creating and setting up systems that ensures that there is continuous teacher development. Am I correct?
Yes, you are.
Okay. At the very beginning, once teachers, we talked about recruitment yesterday. So once the teachers are recruited, and during the recruitment process, what should be happening is we should have identified the need gaps of the teachers. And that kind of continues right into their probation period. So during the probation period, you kind of know that, this person needs this sort of development in this area, as a teacher in our school, and based on the level that they're teaching, and based on maybe the growth progression that you have identified for that particular talent. What then happens is you should have a one-to-one meeting with that person, either the school lead, the academic lead, or the head teacher, depending on what sort of framework really that they have in the school. That discussion should go on, and the person should then know that, you're expected to complete so and so number of courses every term or every month, and it could be paid courses, it could be free courses, but we need to see either a certificate or a learning, something that you will do that brings it in. So, but what I find a lot of times is there's a training and somebody is told somewhere that, you need to attend this, and it's going to go out of your salary. Now, much as development really is your personal responsibility, I think we should get that straight off. So if I want to develop myself, if my school doesn't develop me, I should develop myself. The skills I'm getting, everything, it's mine. It doesn't go anywhere else. It stays with me. So we should be more invested in professional development as people and as education professionals. However, the school needs to have a system that is reviewed periodically, and somebody needs to be in charge of that system. In our school, for example, the academic leads for each unit, so preschool, Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, and secondary, are in charge of that development. They ensure that they find the courses and they're tasked with that responsibility. They go out there and talk to their teams and say, you know what, I noticed in this area, when I came to sit in your class and I was your lesson, I noticed we're lacking here. So I'm going to give you support. And part of the support is that you need to take this particular course. During the time you're taking that course, we can have discussions daily, weekly. So they actually have a system in place where they ensure that people who are taking those courses are being monitored. Sometimes they actually look for a course that you think would work for you and you can take, and then we can compare notes with what I have. So yes, Titi, there actually does need to be a system, and it must be one that has both the teacher voice, the teacher who is the one taking the self-development, and of course the school management needs to be in agreement as to the kind of development that should be happening in that individual. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, KK, and you are loud and clear.
Okay, great. I'm very worried about that.
Yeah, but no, we heard you very loud and clear. The volume was fantastic. Rotimi, add your 2 pennies to Rotimi, are you there? Okay. I want Rotimi to add his 2 pennies, but Rotimi is en route, so his internet is not. But KK, I will comment on what you said. It's so interesting that you were insisting what Rhoda had said, whereby hiring well, get the right people in on the train. And a teacher needs to be vested in their own development, because in the end, it's like you're building your house. Nobody can, when the house is built, nobody can take it away from you. It's fully built. But I would also say that the teacher, should be invested in their development. The school needs to have something in place to help the teachers.
Oh, absolutely.
And you mentioned something something, I would
Yeah.
like to throw that in. This idea of deducting the money from, the teachers, what are your thoughts on it? Money for training, deducting it from, teachers. Because I know some schools whereby they put out a training and, attendance is mandatory and they just deduct it from your salary. What are your thoughts on that as a school owner? I'd also like to hear from Rotimi. But KK, you
Okay,
go
so
first.
okay. So in terms of deducting the training fee from the teachers, I'm neither here nor there, to be honest with you. It absolutely depends on the system that the school runs. So we, for example, there are times where we actually deduct part of the money from the teacher's salary so that they understand that they have to be invested in it. I find that for a lot of people, what doesn't cost you anything doesn't mean anything to you. So it's just school fronting out there. And I've had instances, with some members of staff who you're asked to pay to go for training. We pay the full fees for the training. And, they say to us, we need to for the training. And I'm like, are you joking? I just paid XYZ amount of money. And they say you can't take yourself with transport to the training. So there are times like that. And so sometimes we tell you, what, we take 1,000, 2,000 out of your salary, but it's an agreement up front. It's not that we say go for training, we've paid for the training, and then you're not aware and the money just disappears from your salary. No. For me, clarity and being open about the process is very important for everybody who is invested in that process. Yeah, those are my thoughts. But of course, there's some trainings where the teacher doesn't pay anything. We pay fully for it. Also, when we have in-service, so maybe we'll bring somebody into the system to train the teachers, or I take the training myself, or another member of the academic or administrative team takes the training, the teachers don't pay anything for that. So that's in service and they don't pay anything. But there are times where we actually need them to make a commitment. So we are sure that the commitment goes beyond just for the training. They understand that they have to use that training function. Yes.
Thank you, KK, for that balanced view. I really like that. Before we hand over to Rotimi, let me just greet all our tribe members that are joining us. Gideon, hello. Ayolua, Harrison, Gloria, Favor, Dogu. It's a pleasure to have you all join us on the Good Morning Education Show. It's great to see you. So, Rotimi, back to you and on your thoughts on the last 2 points that we raised.
All right. I think that it's a function of the quality and maturity of staff that you have. I really would not, in a general way, advise that the workforce be charged, because the average mindset is an entitlement mindset. And the moment you charge them, you know how people are. Once they don't own that assignment, they don't own being part of the brand, then what happens is that no matter the quality, you that spent money to subsidize the training or to get the training done, you know the value. But once somebody is fixed in their mindset, their disposition towards you is that you are taking from the little that they have to earn, and they do the training with a defective attitude, defective mindset. So at the end of the day, being in a training does not mean that you've been immersed in the training. So they are physically present, but they are not profitable post-training to you. And sometimes some people do it deliberately. So most times I advise that when this will happen, it will be based on the kind of school culture you have, based on the maturity of the staff, and possibility that they already envision the vision of the school. If those three things are not in place, do not charge. It's best that you find a way around it. But the truth about it, another thing is that if you're going to charge them, then also there should be a reward system in place. Reward for performance, reward for a lot of things, so that they understand the school is a balanced school, not forcing them to be developed alone, but also appreciating them for performance, display of performance. So those two things must happen if you would venture. Because I've had opportunity to talk to people where a lot of things were not happening in the school, but because they had made it mandatory for. In fact, There's a particular amount they keep that if you are now leaving, they'll give it back to you. And you just find out that a lot of people will just say, is it not that amount? And then they do all they need to do. In some cases, there's a bad blood by the time they are leaving the school. They're writing to the owner, writing to the directors in a very rude manner that I attended so training. I want my certificate. I attended so training. So you kept certain amount of money per term, and I did not attend this particular training. You give me 10,000 or 20,000 naira back. And for a brand that is trying to grow, I don't think you need to engage in such tussle. It's not good for brand perception at all. So it's a tough one. It's a tough call, but there are quick wins to this thing. Sometimes retainership, sometimes friendship, sometimes you need to sign up with the PTA to fund some of your training, and sometimes you need to collaborate with some corporates within the area that your school is located. So those host community schools can reach out to corporates to subsidize training for them or support them in the place of training, not just support them in place of sponsoring events, but also support. So if we write for sponsorship of inter-house sports, we could also write for sponsorship of training. And it doesn't have to be big corporates. Trust me. Imagine a school knows that Niger Kids is in Surulere. They can write to Titi and say, please, could your directors come and train us on a topic, maybe a soft skill? And those people might be fortunate that you're available and you will come. Now, that would have been a cost, but now they are getting it without being paid for. You understand? In some cases, it might even be that, they get it and say, okay, we want to go for a training budget for the term, and it's X amount of naira, it's 500,000. All we need is 10 companies to give us 50K. And then the training is done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Rotimi. I like some of those creative ideas for training, either from the funding aspect or from the, actually, I like that idea of looking at companies around you either in your vicinity or in your network. So it could be companies that parents are even employees or owners there that can help support in terms of the training. I also like what you said in terms of to charge to charge. There's, it's the same like Keke said. There's no one answer. Each person needs to look at the priorities of the school, what they're trying to build, and create the balance. But the word of caution that Keke said is that let all things be agreed upfront. Let nothing, come in, take you by surprise. So let those things be very clear. Let it be very clear so that people know that's where you stand. And I think it's important that we all, try not to have people, even teachers, having that entitlement mentality where they feel that, they need to do everything, which is also why some people also ensure that they also have something that is vested. So if I pay for training and you're still asking for transport, then it just means that there's no vested interest. So I like that balance. We currently are, we've come to the end of today, but I would just also take our, parting words as we listen, from Rotimi and from KK, to teachers that are listening now. What would you want to tell them about teacher development? To school owners that are listening now, what would you want them to know about teacher development? So KK would, KK, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Okay, so maybe give us your parting shot on this topic of teacher development as we round up.
Reality about development is training pays for itself. So if you train develop teachers, they bring into your system tangible, functional skills that become evidence-based. So training for itself. If you help them, helping your system. If you don't develop them and they stay in your system, then you have a huge problem on your hands. So I would say have a training budget every year or every term. It depends on you. Have a training budget and utilize it skillfully. In addition, give teachers opportunity to use the training that they've gone for. Yes, because they don't use the training that they've gone for, and those skills are useless, and you just really wasted. Thank you all, and please invest in teacher development. Train your teachers, train your administrative staff as well. Train. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love that. Before Rotimi did, Kiki, I like what you said, that let them use what, provide the opportunities and help them use what they even went for the training for. That's so important. So the training is not a ticking of box, but it's actually a reality. Rotimi, closing words from you.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. I think what we need to know is teacher development and training is something that will benefit you as a teacher, is something that will benefit your school, is something that the industry also will benefit from. So training and teacher development is a must for me, and it's something that is a gold mine that everyone has something in it for them. So go out there, make sure that you develop yourself as a teacher. The industry is dependent on it, the sector is dependent on it, your school is dependent on it, your career is dependent on it. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank
And I
you.
think it would be good to end this session with, I know KK, you had some training. I don't know whether you've completed it, but I know that you had some training. Maybe you can talk about that as we talk about, closing the show. What do you have up your sleeves?
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much, Titi Adewusi. I appreciate it. So we have a teacher makeover. It's called TTM, the teacher makeover. What is the teacher makeover? It's a 6-week teacher accelerator program. That's what it is. We go through all you. So the first week with mindset, then we go into teacher learning 2 weeks.
You know, the line is not that they want to talk about this, your training. The line is not cooperative. Hey.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Start again. Start from the beginning.
Okay, so we have a training coming up. It's called TTM, the show, and we go all the way from the inside to the outside. So we do with you, the teacher, we deal with your mindset, we teach learning, we go into assessments, and then of course the administrative of the job of the teacher. The 6 program, it runs both virtually and a blended model. So there's 6 models which are streamed live. If you want to come into class setting, it's fine. More about it. Either go on my Instagram page at Okeyinfu Ajayi, or on my Instagram page at Learner's Corner. Go on my website, okeyinfu.com is my website. Once you go on my website, you find all the details of training. And once again, it's the TTM. It starts on the 24th of February. It runs for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Yeah, and the cost is 12,500. If you want to do fully virtual model, or if you want a blended model is 25,000. You need the training, because from the very first week we start to do assignments, functional assignments that ensures that the things you are learning, you can implement them immediately. So you actually do need to come for the TM.
Okay, TTM. So that's the teacher makeover starting on the 24th of February for a period of 6. Please check out KK's Instagram handle for more page and her website for more page. Rotimi, do you have anything up your sleeves in February when it comes to teacher development?
He always has something up his sleeves.
So like KK said, what I'll simply say is that just follow the information from KK. That's up my sleeve. KK is up my sleeve. And then of course I have the Fix My School coming up, but that's in March. And in February, what I'm doing is right now I'm having a session tomorrow and Friday in Abuja. Is the growth storming session in Abuja. And I still have a few slots for some people who would like to be a part of it. And it's going to be a great time. Trust me, Lagos was a bomb, and Port Harcourt was a blast, and Abuja is going to be a boom blast bomb. Trust me. So we'll talk about the other ones later. All right.
Okay. Boom, boom, boom. I like that. So Rotimi is in Abuja. So for all anybody listening to us from Abuja, connect with him for his storming session happening this week. check him out on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. I think from me out, it's been a great morning, and it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Have a wonderful, wonderful day until you join us.
Show.
Same time tomorrow, 8 a.m. on the Good Morning Education Show. So we end again by saying it's always
Education Show.
Good morning on the Good Morning Education
A
Show.
great morning on the Good Morning Education Show.
Yeah, bye everyone.
Bye.